Hello everyone. So today we have Michael with us, founder and CEO of Store Connect and a serial entrepreneur. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
So Michael, just to start with, we would like to understand your journey from the beginning. How you entered the entrepreneurial world, Salesforce world, and what is your journey like? I'm sure it has not been very easy, right? It has its own challenges. So would you like to understand your challenges and ups and downs of the journey?
Wow, it's a big question. So, I, in terms of Salesforce and the ecosystem, I started building. I have another company called Reinteractive. I still have it. It does Salesforce focused app development. So, websites that are connected into Salesforce or mobile phone apps that are connected into Salesforce. And we were doing a lot of work around that. And we kept having clients coming to us asking us to build complete e-commerce solutions, not necessarily connected to Salesforce, but just an e-commerce solution from the ground up. And I kept sort of saying, well, yeah, but I can take your $250,000 or more to build this, but why aren't you using Shopify or BigCommerce? So, there was a lot of solutions out there 10 years ago. And the response I kept cutting back was not the fact that the front end didn't work, because e-commerce is a pretty solved problem, but they needed more access to the back end data. And they wanted the back end system to do business in the way that they did business, not in the way that the e-commerce product wanted them to do business. And what was really happening, and still happens now, is that the e-commerce products you choose tend to dictate how you run your business because they're not very modifiable. So at that time, about 8 or 9 years ago, I decided, what if I built Shopify and WordPress on top of Salesforce? And I thought that was a $1 billion idea. And then I turned around and sure enough, Demandware had just been bought by Salesforce for a couple of $1 billion. And I went, well, I was right, but I was just late,
Little bit later.
a little bit late. But then I kept asking partners, why aren't you installing Demandware and Commerce Cloud? And they would laugh at me and say, well, we don't have any clients that need a $1 million e-commerce solution or a $500,000 e-commerce solution. And I thought, well, maybe there is an actual product here. So I started building it. And about a year into building Store Connect, Cloud Craze got bought by Salesforce for several hundred million. And I went, okay, well, I was still right, but still late. And then I kept asking people, why aren't you installing Cloud Craze? It's now B2B commerce on Salesforce. And the answer I got from partners was, look, it works, but at the end of the day, it's an experience cloud platform, and it's quite limited on what you can actually do with it. It's not really built for high-speed, high-performance websites. It's just not what it is. I went, okay, well, there is actually a product here, and then I just kept going. And yeah, eight years later now, or 7.5, we've done a couple of fundraising rounds. We've got 35 staff in 4 or 5 countries, many, many, many clients, hundreds of websites running on it, and it really is proving out the point of a really powerful product. But yeah, it's taken a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of work to get to even where we are now.
And that's entrepreneurship, right? If you don't have sleepless nights, you can be a true entrepreneur. No, so before Store Connect, what were you into? Were you related to Salesforce ecosystem somehow, or
Yeah,
how?
so through Reinteractive is a software development agency that I have, reinteractive.com, and it does Salesforce connected web and mobile applications. So if you need a really high performant, high speed web portal that integrates with your Salesforce data, or you need a very specific mobile app that integrates directly with Salesforce data, that's what Reinteractive produced. So we'd already done a lot of Salesforce related applications, and that's really what gave me the groundwork to understand how we could build Store Connect in a profitable and scalable way. It took a lot of work and figure out, and we actually ended up having to end up getting a patent on how we've done it, because it's a very unique methodology of how we can scale so many websites on Salesforce without basically going bankrupt with API fees.
Yeah, no, that makes, and I've got the same feedback, from a couple of people who already use Store Connect, that what Salesforce standard clouds were not able to do, Store Connect was able to do. So kudos
Yeah,
on that.
and it is a focus of our product is we really want to allow clients to build out what they need and have the design that they want, but while also just using standard web technologies. So to be a Store Connect administrator, really, you just need the same technology that you would use for a Shopify website. And that just means that we open up a huge range of people that can work on Store Connect. You don't have to be a Lightning Web Components developer. There's no Experience Cloud involved. So, you can just apply your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript skills to build your website and have it running.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So before Reinteractive, what are you kind of working on? Did you have another venture? Because I know you have multiple ventures, right?
I
So
have a few, yeah. I've got another company called Metapulse. It does statistics and team charts and policy. I use that in all my companies to run and grow the companies. And before Reinteractive and Metapulse, I was actually a volunteer for 10 years. So helping people get off drugs and alcohol addiction and putting families back together and all sorts of stuff. But I soon found out that being a volunteer, you don't earn much money, and my parents were not getting any younger, and I needed to make sure I had enough to look after them. So that's why I started all my software companies.
do you do some bit of volunteering still, or you
Oh,
completely?
absolutely. Yeah, even last night. Yeah.
Oh,
So a lot of that, and a lot of, I don't really talk about it much, but general philanthropy and things like this. I'm very actively involved in all that. But that's what keeps you grounded. Like, you need a reason. You can't just be doing business for the money. It's too
yeah,
boring
you
and
need a
too
reason.
easy.
You need a reason behind it, and you need to, do it for the right reasons and not for
That's
the
right.
money is like a byproduct, I would say, but
Exactly.
it's more on your
It's
capability.
one of the lowest forms of motivation.
Yeah. So, so since you have founded multiple organizations, you have also volunteered. What is one belief that stayed across from all the organizations? Because I assume all these organizations work in different, very different areas, right? One is a service company, one is a product company, right? What is a belief that kind of stayed with you while you were building all this?
I think one of the strong ones is you can't build anything great by yourself. You need a strong team. And a corollary to that is that a great leader, or if you want to be a good leader of a team, you need to realize that in order to command or to direct people, what you really need to do is service them and help them. And your value to society is really measured by how well you can help other people do whatever it is they need to do. Help your clients or help your team or your staff or volunteering, whatever. So you really have to work out, and something that I've worked a lot and hard with, and if you look at my LinkedIn posts and X posts and whatever, I quite often talk about my management ideals and how to do them. But at the end of the day, your job is to make sure that as a business owner or founder, that your team have the tools of what they need to get the job done, and that you get any stops and barriers out of their way on helping them get that done. And if you can do that, you then build a very strong and powerful and resilient team that is used to getting things done, and that then builds a big business. I think that's a very powerful thing to look after.
No, that totally makes sense. Even while I am running Kizzy Consulting, it is in a similar fashion. You need to delegate and give the right tools and right attitude to the team so that they can kind of scale. And you are not probably doing everything except for maybe firefighting a few times. That is something you'll definitely have to do.
Yeah, firefighting's always fun and it will always be there.
Yeah, you can't skip it.
Yeah, you can't. It will keep happening. But the more that you train your team and give them the policy knowledge of how you would handle any particular situation, the less fires there are, because they get put out when they're smoldering as opposed to when they're ablaze. And that's really what you want to do with your team. And that's how you help them. You write policy, you approve policy, you get it known, and you help them get the job done.
Yeah, so how do you kind of balance with the vision setting? I'm sure Store Connect has a vision. You're looking forward to maybe more growth or whatever, like XYZ vision. And with this firefighting, how do you kind of balance? What is your day like? in a typical day of Michael's life?
Of Michael, yeah. Well, I'm doing a lot of work with America right now. So my day starts at 4:30 in the morning, and I get ready, and I usually get to my desk around 5. Do all my morning meetings. Usually by about 9 o'clock, I've done 2 or 3 demos with prospects. I've handled a couple of partner calls. I've started through my email backlog, which there is always way too much of. And then it's a lot of helping, run the business and coordinate the business. I make sure I get a 5K walk or run in every single day. I've been doing that now for November 16. So what day is it
I saw
today?
that.
That's quite a lot. So November, December, January, February, March, April. So 5 months without fail, every day, at least a 5K walk. 5K, I've got it as 5K or 15,000 steps, right? So if like a few days ago I was actually moving house and I did 10K of walking just by moving the house and carrying things, right? So to then do another 5K walk at the end of that, my feet were starting to go, hang on a minute. So I did like 3.5 additional kilometers, and that got me over the 15,000 mark on steps, which is a significant amount of steps. If anyone's tried to do 15,000 steps in a day, you're walking a lot. So yeah, that's been a journey, and that's been really good. It's given me a lot of grounding. I love my coffee. I have my own espresso machine at home. I'm always making myself a coffee, and I enjoy coffee. I always think that coffee is what programmers do. So programmers take coffee and convert it to lines of code. So I still get to do some coding as well, which is fun.
Oh, you still
Yeah,
in Store
absolutely.
Connect or Interactive for your own product?
Mainly in Store Connect, a little bit in other products as well. But occasionally, a client will have a feature request, and I look at it and go, it's a great request. It's easy to do. Screw
You
it,
can
I'm
do
just
it.
going to code it. And then I'll just do it over the weekend and put it in as a pull request, and it'll be done, right? So, but my team keep me very grounded in that, because they always find something that, isn't quite right, or not always actually. Sometimes I'm pretty good, but yeah, I look forward to getting the feedback from the team on things that I'm not, doing right or missing or whatever, because Store Connect is now an incredibly complex product. It has so many features. It's pretty ridiculous.
No, no, that makes sense. I still code today. I'm full focusing more on AI and how these initiatives are. So I am deeply involved with the R&D team. So I still code, but I'm no more into project coding and all, because I don't want to mess up
Nice.
things. Yeah, because I'm not too involved there. Yeah, that is great. And Store Connect. So what is the vision of Store Connect? Where do you see it going?
Store Connect fills the gap between a simple site that can be handled by Shopify and an enterprise site that requires Commerce Cloud, right? You can get some very complex Shopify sites, and you can get some very simple Commerce Cloud sites, but there's definitely a sweet spot in the middle, and that's where Store Connect firmly sits. We have, got a new tagline we've started to be using, which is making complex commerce simple. And really, the goal of Store Connect is to help companies that want to scale and expand their online commerce, be it online on the web or via a point of sale system or even over the phone talking to somebody, and bring all that into a single commerce environment within Sales Cloud. But that also includes running your website and doing your content management. We have Early Childhood New Zealand, who just put a case study on our website just recently. The Salesforce admin there, she's fantastic, and she goes, Store Connect's a beast, because every time she needs to do something, someone asks her to, can we do blah? She goes, well, let me see if Store Connect can do it. And it turns out we can, and she ends up implementing it, And we've had clients turn off 20 plus SaaS products by installing Store Connect, which is wild. 20 different subscriptions. So, it's a really interesting product, and I really enjoy selling it because we simplify the lives of our clients, and we help them get back onto what they want to do, which is selling their products, right? They don't want to be managing websites and e-commerce platforms. They don't want to be paying humans to get computers to talk to computers. They want to be in there building their own products and selling it and creating relationships with their customers. So that's what we love doing, and we're moderately successful at it. You know, it's turning out really good.
No, great. So talking about AI, right? AI is a big thing these days. It has picked up since ChatGPT is out there in the market from last year or so. So what do you think about AI? Because we are focusing a lot on AI and industry specific kind of niches in non-profit real estate. We have implemented a few. So what are your thoughts and how are you integrating AI in Store Connect? And do you see any possibilities? Is it required or is it not required? How are things there?
Yeah, I mean, on our customer commerce podcast, we just had a talk with an AI expert over in America, and well worth listening to, because I think one of the things with AI, there's first off, I think AI is a misnomer. It's not intelligent. It's very smart, and it can access a lot of data. But at the end of the day, what an AI tool is doing is predicting the next most likely outcome on a sentence, and not even the next most likely word. It's predicting the next most likely token, which could be part of a word, right? And where AI is exceptionally useful is being able to parse a lot of data and pull out some what it thinks is important tidbits of information and then present that, right? That's a very powerful tool of AI, a very good use case of AI. Generating things, generating images, stuff like that, very, very powerful. I think any business owner of any size needs to be looking at how can you use AI to reduce the mundane and give agency to your humans. And there's a lot of talk recently about agentic
Yeah.
solutions and using agents, and agents are fantastic, but they'll still suffer from what we call hallucinations, which really all a hallucination is an unwanted response at the end of the day. And the other thing AIs are not good at is, and I don't know if they'll ever be good at this, is self-motivated creativity. So you still need someone to come up with what you want them to do. So if I was a small business looking at this from a business point of view, I'd be looking at, well, what parts of my job are mundane? What parts are just, drudgery that we don't have to handle on a constant basis? Work out how we could use AI for that and to reduce the pain and suffering around that, as opposed to trying to replace out our creative team or, that sort of thing. Give them the tools, and that's really what AI is all about.
No, I agree with you, and what how I explain our customers and our internal team is consider AI as your intern, right?
Yeah, that's
And
right. A very good
and
intern. Yeah.
yeah, a good intern, a great intern, who never goes on leave and is working 24/7, right? So you can kind of train them. So we internally are training a lot of AI agents to kind of understand our voice of tone and how we operationalize, what are the rule sets you need to follow, and give them a genuine set of data. And
Yep.
then I think they'll work better than an intern, I would say, right? And you cannot replace creative folks and those kind of folks, but they can at least get the mundane work done.
Yeah, and totally. And that is a good use case. And then the next thing on that would be still hire your interns, but put them in roles that can utilize their unique human
Yeah.
skills and give them agents that can do the other functions and get them to supervise and make sure the agents work. Really, at the end of the day, what AI will do, machine learning AI, is give agency to a lot of people. If you look at the
Absolutely.
evolution of humanity, we went from talking to each other to the printing press was a major evolution. After the printing press, the wheel, then the printing press, fire, the industrial revolution on getting machines to do work, like
Mhm.
actual work. And what that did was humans got replaced from sewing the thread to watching the machine sew the thread and making sure the machine worked. Then we got the world's knowledge in our hand, If you really think about the power of this device, every person who owns an iPhone or an Android device or whatever has access to the entire knowledge of the human race,
Yes,
pretty
absolutely.
much. But do they use it? It's a
Not a
really interesting thing, right? Never before have, I don't know how many phones are out there, 3 billion
yeah.
people had the full access to pretty much the entire knowledge of the human race. And yet we still have a definite hierarchy of creativity. That's never going away. The next step, though, will be that in our hand will be agents that
Yeah.
will be able to just say, go and do blah. Now, some people are going to be using those agents to go order my this week's shopping, right? And that'll be the total use of what they do with those agents.
Yeah.
Other people will be, help me work out my next business plan on how I'm going to take over blah, blah. I've had this great idea about a new type of fabric that needs to do ABC. Can you please do a deep research into what's possible around that? Come back to me with some ideas and let's start figuring it out. So you're still going to have very different types of humanity using the tool, and what you're going to use it for really comes down to what your goals and motivations are, right? But I think that's the big change that AI, machine learning, robots, whatever you want to call them, is going to have, is that it will provide more agency to get more work done. I don't think anyone's going to be working less in the next 5 or 10 years. I think, if anything, this is going to increase the workload of what we do, but it will move, it'll be more like a shift of workload. So instead of me going to my email inbox and going, oh, who was that person that emailed me, 7 months ago, they were talking about blah, blah. I got to find them. You then go and you do date filters and you try and search. Soon it will just be, hey, AI agent, can you find me that email about that guy that spoke to me about that thing? I can't quite remember what it was, but he said the word white dove in the email, or something about a white bird of some sort. And the agent just comes back and goes, here it is. That's what we'll start getting and seeing become more pervasive.
Yeah, and I think it will also increase the productivity up to a large extent,
Oh,
I think.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, because we've already seen the results, right? Like my team uses AI for pretty much a lot of things, idea generation and things like that. So it is definitely going to increase productivity, and you can scale much faster, I believe. Like before machines were there, we had a limit, right?
Yep.
Human labor has certain labor, they need to work 8 hours a day and things like that. But machine can run like 24 hours. So that increased the productivity, and companies used to scale faster. With AI agents, I think it'll multiply, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, so talking about, we are done talking about entrepreneurship and work, right? So, how has your journey been with health and fitness? I see that you have been into it for almost like 6 months now, and regularly, consistently, like you mentioned. So, what motivated you to do so? Were there any issues in the health, or you just woke up and you thought, I should focus on my health?
I've been on a journey for quite some years. I've lost over 30 kilos in the last 5 or 6 years, so it's quite a lot of weight.
I lost 44 back in 2017.
Wow, well done. So, it's, I think as you're going through life, you just start realizing you need to grow up and be an adult. And take care of yourself. The walks I picked up on because I solve a lot of problems walking. It clears the mind. I look out, because usually my whole day is, my attention is fixed 90 centimeters away from my face, right? For 10 hours a day. So you get this fixed attention. So one of the things I do when I'm walking, and I highly recommend this to anyone listening, is when you go for a walk, don't keep that attention fixed so close. So what a lot of people will do is they'll go for a walk and take their phone and then keep their attention fixed at that 90 centimeter gap. It's much more therapeutic to go out without a phone and look out and look at different distances and notice things about your environment that you didn't notice before. Notice that strange tree, or watch that bird fly past, or have a look at that aeroplane over there, and really change the focal length of your attention. And that will actually revitalize you. It'll give you a lot more energy back. You'll get attention units back that were sort of stuck at this far away where your screen is, and your mind will just start percolating on ideas and things, and it'll help you sleep better as well. So it's a really powerful aspect doing that walk every day, and that's something that I've really been working on and still going. I'm not perfect, but I'm a lot better than I was a year ago.
That's important, right? You need to improve. I think it is very important, and it kind of helps your creative brain as well. It gives you a lot of
Totally.
ideas. You feel fresher. Yeah, I've also started playing from a few months now, and it really impacted my productivity at work as well.
Yeah, people complain about stress and how stressful things are, and truthfully, all stress is for a person is when they are facing a problem that they don't feel like they have any ability to handle, right? So and you see this in business, like you'll see an entrepreneur who's running their company, they get a problem, they might be worried about it, but they're not really stressed about it because they know that, well, I can go get Joe and I can put Joe on this project for a couple of weeks and we can handle that, or I can do a bit of work over the weekend and solve that problem. And like they've got ideas on how to solve it. Stress comes in when something hits you that you don't feel like you have any way of handling it or any way of doing anything about it. And if you're feeling stressed, go for a walk. And while you're walking, have a think about the problem on anything you can do about it. Even just the smallest thing. And as soon as you come up with that, you'll feel your stress level come down. And while you're on that walk, that will help you come up with that idea. And when you get back, just do that thing, whatever it is, the smallest thing, and it'll chill you out, and it will just make your life a lot better.
Yeah, no, I think that helps, and also discussing the problem also helps sometimes if you have a mentor or
Absolutely, if you've got someone to talk to, yeah.
yeah, that
We
also
we
helps.
quite often have in my software company, we sent rubber ducks to all of our devs, so they would have a rubber duck to talk to about a problem. And we had a policy, and we still have a policy in our software company that is called the 15-minute problem. If you are stuck on a problem and you are not making progress for 15 minutes, you're required to get someone on the phone on a Zoom call or a Google Meet or something, or on the phone, and tell them what the problem is. And not
And
necessarily expect to get an answer out of them, but by talking about it, you will come up with a solution.
yeah, no, that happens with me all the time.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
great. It was great speaking with you, Michael. So just on a closing note, right? What advice would you like to give to maybe a budding entrepreneur, who's kind of entering the domain, and what advice from your
You
experience?
should start a development agency that does Store Connect installations because you'll make a shit ton of money. Um, but other than that, I would say only become an entrepreneur if you have a serious passion about what it is you want to create and build, because you have to be borderline insane to be an entrepreneur. You have to be in a situation where you thoroughly believe that something is going to happen that has not yet happened, right? And everyone else is looking at your journey going, well, but that doesn't exist yet. And you're like, yeah, I know, I'm creating it. And they're like, but it can't create. Look at all this competition. They're going to beat you to it. And you constantly get the negativity, not because people are bad, but because they can't see your vision. So if you're going to go down the entrepreneur path, it's incredibly rewarding, but it's hard. And don't think it's just easier than a 9 to 5 job. There are lots of other ways to be fulfilled in life. You can have a work job and then do other things after hours that might excite you more, volunteering or playing with your kids or what have you, right? So if you are an entrepreneur, by all means do it, but make sure that you've got a passion around that thing, that in the darkest days you can still keep pushing on it. Otherwise, it's going to be a really tough journey for you.
No, that's a great advice. Thanks for coming on, Michael, and sharing your insightful thoughts.
No worries. Thanks, Sanjeet.
Thanks, Michael.